Hey, welcome to This Week in Flips. Every Monday, I hop on YouTube and talk through some of the weird, wacky, and profitable items I buy to resell, along with the top 10 most profitable sales of the week. I also talk through a variety of things that come up during the week as a reseller on eBay. For example, this week I got a return for a pretty bizarre and funny reason, so we'll talk through that here in a minute. But first, let's talk through some of the things that I bought this week. First up is this vintage University of Longhorns helmet head mug. This thing is just really weird. It looks like it's from the 80s, maybe the 90s. It is a cup that you would put a beer can in, and then you put a straw through, and then you put this head on top of it. And it's just, I don't know why I thought this thing was so funny and so bizarre. You just look at the face of this thing, and it's just the dumbest looking thing. So there's no active comps, there's no sold comps, there's nothing on Terapeak. I didn't check WorthPoint. I don't have a WorthPoint account. It's too expensive. But I just couldn't find anything on this Thirst Breakers brand mug. And it's just the most weird looking and bizarre thing that I've seen in a long time. And so I went ahead and bought it. I threw it up for $25. I figured somebody's going to want it. It's got Longhorns on it. There's got to be some college kid out there who wants to go tailgating and bring this weird looking cup along. And so hopefully they'll find it. Hopefully they'll buy it from me. Another thing I found this week are these Samsung Blu-ray players. These aren't necessarily weird or interesting, but the weird thing is I found 3 of them this week, independent of one another. Really bizarre. 3 of these things in 3 different locations. They were all $5 a piece. And you know, the first one I bought, the second one I saw it, I was like, huh, that's weird. I just bought one of these. The third one, I'm like, okay, who's somebody playing a prank on me? This is really bizarre. It's just weird to find things in pairs like this. Do you ever find things in pairs like this? But they are a good thing to look out for because a lot of people are getting rid of their DVDs. They're getting rid of their DVD players or Blu-ray players just because they have switched to streaming. And so they have no use for a device like this. And so they're usually given away pretty cheap. I paid $5 a piece for each one of these things. So it's a good thing to look out for. And they sell for about $30, $35. Another thing I picked up is this Yankee Candle. Yankee Candle is a great brand of candles to look out for. Candles in general are often overlooked by other resellers, and we make a lot of money buying and selling candles. You do have to be careful in the summer months. I've had situations where I've shipped them to, say, Arizona, and they arrive and they have melted. So be careful with that. But you know, this Yankee Candle I got at a thrift store for $5.60, and it's listed for $34.50 plus shipping. And so it's a really good thing to look out for is just candles in general. There's some brands that do really well. Of course, not all candles do well, but again, a lot of people overlook these and they can be really valuable. Another thrift store find this week are these Red Wing Pecos leather boots. If y'all have watched some of my videos on thrift store shopping and finding deals there, I talk a lot about buying behind the glass. And so it can be discouraging going to thrift stores and seeing things that are priced really high. You can see I paid up for these. I paid $40. They were $50, but I had a 20% coupon for the store. It was at a Savers, and they were behind the glass and they were priced up. And it can be really discouraging to see those high prices. Instead of getting discouraged, use that as a signal that this item may be worth a lot of money. And so it's almost like having the thrift store do some research for you. So if you see a high priced item, look it up. Maybe there's going to be enough margin to make it worth reselling. And so that was the case with these boots. Paid $40 for them. I've got them listed for $150. I put best offers on there. The reason I put best offers on is because even though they're brand new and have never been used, they're not in perfect condition. There's a few very light scratches on the leather. I put best offers on, just somebody may not want to pay one for, I think they're like $300 boots, brand new. If we were to go to Red Wing and buy them directly. Do y'all ever get a return on eBay for a very bizarre reason? This week I got an interesting one that I want to share with y'all. It's this Samsung Blu-ray player, totally unassuming Blu-ray player. It has Wi-Fi streaming, it came with the remote. I bought it for $5 in an estate sale and it sold for $41.85. I really didn't think anything else about it. The buyer opened a return, and check this out. The reason is doesn't match description or photos. It says, I would like to return this item. The description said Wi-Fi streaming, but the apps are from the 90s. Okay. Can't download stream from Disney Plus, Paramount, Peacock, or any current apps. So first of all, it goes without saying, the 90s, there was no devices like this in the 90s. There was no hardware with applications on them where you could stream over the internet. Those things did not exist in the 90s. So I'm not sure what this person's thinking of. This is part of why I offer returns on eBay, and not just returns, but free returns on eBay. And the reason is because even if you put no returns, most buyers can return it no matter what, even if you have no returns. And so they just have to use a specific return reason in order to get a return, even if you don't accept them. And so if I had no returns on this particular listing, they still would have been able to return it because they said it doesn't match the description or photos. Of course, I could combat that and go back and forth with eBay and try to prove it, but it's just really not worth it. And so I offer returns on everything, almost everything. I offer free returns on almost everything as well. Part of it is because it's just buyer expectations. People expect to be able to return something. It's a very weird feeling if you're going to buy something and it says no returns, because what if there is an issue? You want to have that comfort of knowing that you can return something if you have to. And so I definitely just offer returns on everything. So I also offer free returns. And this is a debatable topic here. Some people don't offer free returns. Some people do offer free returns. It can be really hard to tell whether it's worth it to offer free returns or not. So free returns means if a buyer opens up a return, you as the seller have to pay to return the item back. And so the shipping label cost for the return comes out of your balance. But on eBay, it does come with some special privileges if you offer free returns. And this is a big reason why I offer free returns. If you have free returns on and somebody returns it and they return it in a condition that's not the condition you sold it in. So if you sold a new in-box item and they returned it and sent it back opened, you can give them a partial refund up to 50% off. And so that's a seller protection that eBay provides sellers who have free returns. And so I use this pretty regularly, honestly, and buyers don't like it. They get mad. Sometimes they leave negative feedback, but eBay will remove that if they do leave negative feedback. Because again, this is the seller protection that eBay offers. And so I think it's a big plus in offering free returns is being able to do that. And that has saved me a ton of money over time. Has it saved me as much money as I've spent on return labels? Truthfully, I haven't done the math. I think it's a selling point also. And so buyers that see free returns on a listing, I think they're going to be more likely to buy from you than they would from an identical listing that didn't have returns turned on, or an identical listing that didn't have free returns. And so it helps me stand out. They give you a little badge that says free returns. That's why I do it. I do think it's worth it. There are some times when I don't offer returns, and that's when I sell something for parts not working. And so if I have, for example, if this DVD player would have been broken and I was just selling it for parts, I would have turned returns off. And that protects me as the seller of having to accept a return if the buyer's like, well, it doesn't work. Well, of course it doesn't work. It says for parts not working, no returns, and that way you don't get a return on those. So again, I definitely think you should offer returns if you're selling on eBay. I also think you should consider offering free returns if it works out for your business in particular. My return rate generally hovers around 2 to 3%. It's not super high. All right, let's take a look at how I did this week. I had another slow week on eBay. Last week was pretty slow. This week was not as slow, but it was still pretty slow. You can see I sold $1,166 worth of inventory and had a net income of $581. There's a 589% ROI over the last 7 days, and my net profit margin was 46%, which is a little bit low. Usually it's about 50 or a little bit above 50. You can see most of the week was pretty slow, and I had a really big Sunday, so that was nice. And one of the ways that I can tell that it's been a slow week is right here. You'll see I had 70 new listings, but only 31 sales. And if I look over in my data, over my history, I typically almost always sell 1-to-1. If I list 70 things, I would sell 70 things. It's not always exactly 1-to-1, but it's usually really close to it. And this depends heavily on what you sell and what the sell-through rates are, but I sell across all different categories, and I know my data really well. And so I can just see that if I've had 70 listings, but less than half of that in sales, that just means that it's a slow time on eBay for the types of things that I sell. So I would expect with the number of listings that I did this week to have about double the sales that I had this week, but I didn't. So obviously something's up. It'll pick up. This part of the year is just relatively slow compared to other parts of the year. January, February, March, it starts to pick up a little bit, and then it's a slow climb basically all the way up until Q4. My average time to sell in this stuff was 3 months, and I spent a total of $428 on new inventory this week. You can see here, it looks like my inventory is coming from a couple different places. The biggest place is Savers. Yeah, 2 Savers locations. That's where a vast majority of my listings came from this week. There's also some St. Vincent de Paul, some Goodwill stuff, some estate sale stuff. So that's just a breakdown of where I'm buying my inventory over the last 7 days. All right, let's get into the top 10 sales of the week. Coming in at number 10 is this Hallmark Keepsake Inside Story Member Exclusive Ornament. This is one where I just literally had no idea that I still had it. I barely recognized it when I saw that it sold. Looks like I bought it back in 2022. So yeah, I just have no memory of this. And that's kind of a fun thing to sell when you don't even remember that you have it. And so I ended up netting $22.38 for the 10th best flip of the week. The ROI on that was 560%. I bought it for $4 at the Salvation Army. It took 8 months to sell. Coming in at number 9 is this 1968 Texas license plate. I got this at a garage sale this past summer. I paid $3 for it. It sold for $36.41. My net return on it was $23.73. That's a 791% ROI. This caught my eye. I grew up in South Texas. I used to go to Spurs games at the Hemisphere Arena. So I saw this Hemisphere at the bottom, and that just sort of caught my eye. And so I figured I'd look it up, and it did have a really good sell-through rate. I'm actually surprised it took 4 months to sell. sell. Came in on the 9th best flip of the week. Coming in at number 8 is this Bosch coffee maker. And so this thing I got at, I think, St. Vincent de Paul. Back in January. It looks like it took 8 days to sell only for $54.98. I paid $10. I paid up a little bit on it. The net return was $26.17. That's a 262% ROI. It's another scenario where I knew the sell-through rate was really good. I'd sort of forgotten about it, but I was listing something else and I put it on the shelf and I looked over and I saw that. I said, why hasn't that sold yet? And then like 2 hours later it sells. So again, that phenomenon that things sell when you look at them or you touch them, it holds true. It happens at least once a week for me, but glad to get this one out the door. Coming in at number 7 is this Crown Victoria left front window switch. So if y'all have been watching these videos, you know that I bought a couple big boxes of these window switches that have been pulled out of cars that were totaled. This one sold for $42.98. My net return on it was $27.47. That's a 916% ROI. Just got a big box of these things. I got to clean them up every time I list them. I use this as filler though. When I don't have other things to list, I just dig into that box and pick some of these out, clean them up and list them. And I've got a bunch of them and they sell for decent money. And that was the 7th best flip of the week. Coming in at number 6 are these Under Armour Hover Phantom men's shoes. And so I bought these at St. Vincent de Paul. They only took 6 days to sell. The sell-through rate was not great on these. The size is pretty good, 12. They were very clean. They were in good shape. I paid $7. My net was $28.76. The ROI on that was 411%. I did not expect these to sell as quickly as they did. Happy that they did, of course, but again, the sell-through rate just wasn't great, but they were clean shoes. I didn't have to do anything to them, so I figured why not? And they sold in 6 days, so surprise to me, but glad to get them out. Coming in at number 5 is this Breville branded collection of, this is basically from an espresso machine. I got this 2 days ago. The espresso machine was in the basement of an estate sale, which was that's never a good sign. For me, I was like, okay, what do you do if you have an espresso machine that doesn't work? Well, you're going to get rid of it, or maybe you're going to put it in your basement. So I had a hunch that it maybe would not work, but if it was working, it was going to be about a $300 espresso machine in used condition. They wanted $30 for it, and I figured, well, if it doesn't work, I'll be able to part it out. I got it home, plugged it in, and the pump was just hammering. It was so loud. It was definitely not going to work. I fiddled with it for a little bit, but it's just not worth it because the parts are going to make me a good amount of money as well. Not as much as if I could sell the whole thing, but this alone right here sold for $59.98. It only took 2 days. I put a $10 cost of goods on it. I have a bunch of other pieces that I parted out. And when I part things out like this, I break it up into several different listings and I define my cost of goods kind of weighted on how much the individual listings are listed for. So this was listed at $60, so I gave it a $10 cost of goods. Everything else that was a part of that lot though that came off of this broken unit, I just make sure that the cost of goods adds up to the total cost that I paid for it. And so there's probably 5 or 6 other listings as a part of this, and the cost of goods for those are just mixed and based on the listing price, and they all add up to a total of $30. I got a net return on this one of $36.66 for the 5th best flip of the week. That's a 367% ROI. Coming in at number 4, these Asics Gel Quantum shoes. These came from an estate sale. It's an estate sale that as I know it is a little bit expensive. I know if I look here, generally expensive. I keep notes here on my estate sales, but these were not. And so they said $8 for all shoes, and these were shoes, but they were brand new in the box. And so they had like dirty old shoes that were also $8. I don't know why they didn't price these up more, but it took 7 days to sell, $63.98. My net return on it was $38.57. The ROI is 482%. And so shoes like these, even if they're obscure or not super popular, people generally like to buy the same pair of shoes over and over, and shoe companies don't always make the same shoes over and over again. And so, this one in particular, Quantum 364. So it sounds like there's like four variations of these, or maybe there's 4 evolutions of these shoes, and somebody wants these exact ones, and their only way you can get it is through eBay or through the secondhand market. And so being able to find them new on eBay, people are going to pay up for them, and that's exactly what happened here for the 4th best flip of the week. Coming in at number 3 is this Panasonic Mini DV camcorder. So some of y'all might remember from a few weeks ago, this is the camcorder that I bought that had the homemade sex tape in it. So I've never found one of those before, but let's go ahead and just roll that footage. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to roll that footage. I got rid of it. It was not the type of sex tape that you would really want to watch repeatedly. It was, if you could imagine like a big hairy meatball rolling around on a bed sheet, similar to that. So I discarded that, got rid of it, but this thing sold pretty quick, 12 days. for $81.98. The net return was $48.03. I got it at that estate sale. I think I paid, I paid $20 because the camcorder was actually only $5, but it didn't have a battery. And so I had to buy the battery separate, which also came with a charger. That was $15. So I paid $20 total for this. And my net return was $48.03 for the third best flip of the week. Is that right? Yeah, third best flip of the week. Coming in at number 2 is this Panasonic Blue Line VCR. So VCRs are a great thing to look out for. Again, they don't make VCRs anymore, and so the only place that you can get them is on the secondary market from a place like eBay. Panasonic is a good, trusted brand, and the Blue Line versions of Panasonic VCRs are very trustworthy and they're very desirable. And so on the front of it where you put the tape, there's a little blue line going across the front of it. It's not an actual name of the model or anything. It's just people that are looking for this type of VCR will search for Blue Line VCR. So you want to put that in the title there. It came in the box, came with the remote. I got it at Salvation Army for $25, so I kind of paid up for it a little bit, but the net return was still $54.68, only $13.65 to ship, so not a big deal to ship it. Yeah, the total sale on it was $104.98, but I netted about $54 on that one for the second best flip of the week. Finally, coming in at number 1 is this Patagonia men's jacket. So this I got at a sporting goods store that was going out of business. I bought a lot of Patagonia stuff at this sporting goods store. It's all kind of double XL, not highly desirable sizes necessarily, but you can't go wrong with the Patagonia brand. I ended up spending about $600 or $700, I think, at this sporting goods store. $826 I spent. So I'm slowly making that money back. I've sold a bunch of it. Some of it I sell on Facebook Marketplace as well. But yeah, this sold for $144.98, and the net return was $73.80. That's 164% ROI. Again, because my purchase price on this was a little bit higher, $44.98, but it's Patagonia. It's new with tags. You really can't go wrong with it. It did take 2 months to sell, though. So again, not the best week. Things are still a little bit slow. I only made $581 in net income out of $1,166 gross, but not bad. I'll take it. You know, $581 this week is not that bad. All right, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you like these types of videos, I do them every week. If you click this video to the right of my head or the one to the left of my head, those are the last 2 weeks of my What Sold videos. I do them every Monday, so if you like these videos, go ahead and subscribe, and we'll see you next week.